After passing through the stories of perseverance, contentment, learning, and the journey of finding oneself, we realize that the path to maturity does not end at rising after failure, but lies in knowing how to nourish wisdom every single day. If the previous part taught us about the strength of will and determination, then this part speaks of the stillness of wisdom and the art of speech. The ancients once said, "A day without learning makes the mouth speak useless words." The wise do not speak all they know. Those who speak all they know are seldom wise. Two teachings that seem simple, yet contain a profound philosophy about learning and silence. For learning is not merely acquiring knowledge. It is learning to understand, and understanding in order to speak rightly. And silence, it is not weakness, but the mark of one who has understood enough. The modern world has made people speak more, yet listen less. Everyone wishes to express, to prove, to be right, forgetting that true wisdom does not lie in what we say, but in how we listen, reflect, and choose our words. Therefore, in this next part, we will come to know two great men, two figures not only of America but of all humanity, men who lived, learned, and left timeless lessons to the world about intellect, learning, and silence. One was born in poverty, who studied by the light of fire in the woods and became a president who changed the course of human history. The other, a poor printer, who learned the art of silence amid the noise of the world and became a diplomat revered by all of Europe. Two men, two eras, two paths, but one same light, the light of wisdom. And now, allow me to begin this new chapter, starting with the story of a poor boy from Kentucky who believed, as long as one keeps learning, the light within will never fade. The winter of 1816, the forests of Kentucky were bitterly cold. The wind howled through the bare oak trees, sweeping snow across the fields. In a small wooden cabin, no larger than a few square meters, a boy sat curled by the fireplace. The flickering flame reflected on his thin face, his deep eyes devouring every line in an old, tattered book. His name was Abraham Lincoln. The Lincoln family was so poor they couldn't afford candles. The boy studied by the glow of burning wood. Without paper, he wrote with charcoal on smooth pieces of wood, then scraped them clean to write again. Each letter appeared, erased, and appeared again, a testament to the undying desire of a soul learning to light its own flame. Neighbors laughed. That Abe boy always clutching those ragged books. Does he plan to become a philosopher in the woods? But Abe paid no mind. He quietly read everything he could borrow, the Bible, Aesop's fables, even the U.S. Constitution. One night, his father, Thomas Lincoln, found him still awake. Half scolding, half worried, he asked, "Son, why do you study so much? Farmers like us don't need to read." Abe looked up, the firelight glimmering in his eyes like twin stars. "Father, if I do not learn, I won't know how to speak rightly. Those who do not learn, their words drift away like the wind." Thomas fell silent. Perhaps he didn't fully grasp his son's meaning, but in those eyes, he saw something far beyond poverty. A longing for a meaningful life. Years later, Abraham Lincoln left his hometown, working while studying. He worked as a woodcutter, boatman, peddler, and finally a clerk at a small shop. Wherever there were books, there he was. By day he worked, by night he read. With no teacher, he learned by asking everyone. Without school, he turned each failure into a lesson. People said that when he worked in New Salem, Lincoln read every book in the area, even walking miles to borrow more. Someone once asked, "Why do you read so much?" Lincoln smiled, "Because each time I read, I feel a little less ignorant." Gradually, the poor farm boy became a self-taught lawyer. He had no degree, yet possessed what schools could not teach: independent thought and compassion. Lincoln was not a man of fancy speeches, but he had a rare gift: to listen with his whole heart. When people argued, he was silent. When they shouted, he would only ask, "What makes you think that way?" Once, in a trial defending a poor man falsely accused of theft, Lincoln took the case for free. He did not only use logic, but told a story from his own childhood, when he himself had been misunderstood simply because he was poor. He said slowly, "We cannot understand justice unless we have suffered the pain of injustice." The courtroom fell silent. The judge struck the gavel. Acquittal. From then on, people called him the lawyer of conscience. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln, the boy who once wrote with charcoal, was elected as the 16th President of the United States. At that time, the nation was torn by civil war, divided between white and black, shaken in its faith. A journalist asked, "You never attended a famous school, nor were you born into nobility. Where did you gain the wisdom to lead an entire nation?" Lincoln replied, "I study every day as if today were my last chance to learn. For one day without learning is one day I might speak wrongly, and millions could suffer for it." In November 1863, amid the smoke of war, Lincoln arrived at Gettysburg to deliver a speech honoring the fallen soldiers. The night before, he did not sleep. The lamplight cast his thin shadow on the wall. Weary, yet his eyes remained bright. His secretary asked, "What will you say to the people, sir?" Lincoln quietly answered, "I will not say much, but I will say what is worth saying." The next morning, he stood upon the podium, surrounded by endless graves beneath the grass. He began in a calm, solemn voice. "Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal." Just 272 words, lasting barely 2 minutes, but the Gettysburg Address entered history as a gem of human civilization. Why? Because every word he spoke was not memorized from books, but forged from a lifetime of learning, listening, and reflection. When the speech ended, the crowd stood silent for a long while. No applause. A journalist whispered, "He spoke too short. What was so special about that?" But an old soldier behind him wept. He said, "Those were not the words of a politician. They were the words of a man who once studied by the firelight in the woods and never stopped learning what is right." Today, in a world overflowing with information, we read much, hear much, but understand little. Many speak all day, yet their words are as hollow as empty husks. We forget that learning is not to know more, but to speak rightly and act rightly. Lincoln once wrote in a letter to his son's teacher, "Teach my son that $1 earned by labor is worth more than 10 found by chance, and teach him that learning to understand others is more important than learning to defeat them." On April 14, 1865, while watching a play at Ford's Theater, President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. When the news spread, the nation wept. People said, "A poor man has died, but America has lost its wisdom." Yet the light from that wooden cabin in Kentucky still burns to this day. The light of a boy who believed that learning is the only path to becoming truly good. A day without learning makes the mouth speak useless words. Lincoln was not an Eastern sage, but his life stood as living proof of that teaching. A person who learns daily will not speak in vain, will not let ignorance turn into prejudice, and will not let power overshadow conscience. Today, when we complain of being too busy to learn, let us remember the boy who studied by firelight in the snowy woods. When we rush to speak without understanding, let us remember the man who spoke only 272 words, yet moved the world. Knowledge does not come from classrooms, but from an attitude of constant learning. Wisdom does not come from speaking much, but from enough silence to listen and understand. That boy became a president, not because he learned more than others, but because he learned more than his past self. And that, too, is the spirit of the ancient saying, "A day without learning makes the mouth speak useless words." We do not learn to boast of what we know, but to keep the lamp of wisdom ever burning in our hearts. As the flame of Lincoln's lifelong learning dims into history, we realize knowledge not only strengthens a person, but teaches them to speak rightly, at the right time, with the right heart. Lincoln learned how to speak, but history also remembers another man, Benjamin Franklin, who learned when not to speak. If Lincoln symbolizes the fire of ceaseless learning, then Franklin is the still water of matured wisdom. One used knowledge to light the world, the other used silence to keep that light alive. Two men, two paths, but both understood one truth. Words have value only when born from understanding. If Lincoln taught us that a day without learning is a day lost in darkness, then Franklin reminded us that the wise do not speak all they know. Those who speak all they know are seldom wise. Thus, as we close the chapter on the self-taught president, let us turn to another story of a poor printer who learned to listen amid the world's noise and, through silence, created one of the greatest legacies of human wisdom. 1723. In the early morning, cold winds swept through the cobblestone street. A 17-year-old boy, Thin and frail, a leather bag slung over his shoulder pushed a wooden cart full of printed papers through the market. His name was Benjamin Franklin, the youngest child in a family of 17 siblings. Franklin worked in a printing house. By day, he mixed ink, cleaned the machines, and set the lead type. By night, he read everything he could borrow: books on science, philosophy, and even ancient Greek speeches. He believed that a person with knowledge is a person with power, and that words are the strongest weapon of the intellect. But in his youth, Franklin did not yet understand that a weapon not tempered can wound the one who wields it. At the age of 18, Franklin began writing editorials for the newspaper, sharply criticizing politicians and clergymen. His pen was sharp, his words biting, stirring public discussion. But a few weeks later, the editor fired him for being too outspoken. A friend advised him, "Ben, you have a good mind, but your mouth runs ahead of your thinking." Franklin disagreed. He believed that speaking the truth was courage and that silence was weakness. Until one day, in an inn, he overheard an old man whisper to another, "That young man writes the truth, but speaks it at the wrong time." That sentence cut deep into Franklin's pride. He was silent the entire night. And for the first time, he understood. Not every truth needs to be spoken immediately. There is timing, manner, and the listener. After that failure, Franklin went to London to work at a printing shop. There, he lived poor and lonely, but began a great journey of learning, the art of silence. Every evening in a tavern, he would sit and listen to printers, merchants, and scholars debating. Everyone wanted to prove themselves right. Franklin just sat quietly, noting down every opinion, every way they used words, to persuade or to wound each other. One day, the tavern owner asked, "You speak so little. Don't you feel people look down on you?" Franklin smiled. "No, I'm learning how to speak so that one day I will say only one sentence and the whole room will listen." From then on, he set for himself 13 principles of life, and the second one was silence. Speak only what may benefit others or yourself. Avoid trifling conversation. That was when Franklin realized true strength does not lie in speaking much, but in knowing when to speak. Years later, the young printer became one of America's greatest scientists, philosophers, and diplomats. When the War of Independence broke out, Congress sent Franklin to France to seek support. Paris at that time was the center of the world, splendid, glamorous, full of intrigue and political debate. European envoys were masters of rhetoric. They spoke much, loudly, and always to win. Only Franklin, with his silver hair, plain clothes, and calm demeanor, chose to speak little and listen much. At a banquet, a French noble asked, "Mr. Franklin, what do Americans think of our European civilization?" The whole table fell silent. Franklin lifted his wine glass, smiled, and said, "If I were to say all I think, I might not be invited next time." The table burst into laughter. No one felt offended, yet everyone understood that the old diplomat had said far more than his words conveyed. The French admired Franklin not because he persuaded them with arguments, but because he made them want to listen. He did not seek to win debates. He sought to plant seeds of thought. When a scholar asked him about the secret of negotiation, Franklin replied, "No one changes by being forced. People change only when they themselves see it as right." He used no authority, no threats, no displays of learning. With only a smile, calmness, and the ability to choose the right moment to speak, he persuaded the French court to aid America. A victory won not by weapons, but by wisdom and restraint. In 1787, at the age of 81, Franklin returned to Philadelphia to attend the Constitutional Convention. The delegates argued fiercely over the Constitution. No one yielded. Everyone believed they were right. Franklin sat quietly, eyes closed, listening. At the end of the day, he stood up and said slowly, "I have lived long enough to realize that I have been wrong more often than right. So today, when I think I am right, I ask myself, perhaps I am wrong again." The room fell silent. No more arguments. At that very moment, people understood. The power of wisdom lies in humility and in knowing when to stop speaking. After the Constitution was adopted, Franklin returned home, living simply, reading, writing letters, and observing life. Someone once asked him, "Sir, what do you still study now that you are famous throughout the world?" Franklin answered, "I study every day so that my words do not become useless." Each morning, he spent a few minutes writing 3 questions in his notebook. What did I learn today? What did I say that hurt someone? When could I have kept silent but failed to? That was the lesson of the wise, the habit of constantly reflecting upon oneself. On April 17, 1790, Benjamin Franklin passed away at the age of 84. More than 20,000 citizens of Philadelphia, rich and poor, noble and common, came to bid him farewell. A journalist wrote in his eulogy, "He never spoke much, but when he did, the whole world listened." Franklin left behind not only inventions or a constitution, but also a spiritual legacy, the art of speech and silence. In his journal, Franklin once wrote, "When I speak little, I hear much. When I hear much, I learn much. And when I learn much, I no longer need to speak much." The world today is noisier than ever. People speak faster, more, yet understand each other less. Amid the clamor of countless voices, silence has become a rare kind of courage. Silence is not fear, but the wisdom of knowing that not everything needs to be spoken. For sometimes truth spoken too hastily can wound, while timely silence can save a heart. The wise do not speak all they know. Those who speak all they know are seldom wise. Franklin lived out that saying completely. From a young printer fired for speaking faster than he thought, to a diplomat admired across Europe for his smile and calmness, he had completed the journey of a mind that had learned self-restraint. For speech may be silver, silence is gold, but true wisdom is knowing when to use silver and when to keep gold. And in today's world full of noise, only those who know when to stop speaking can hear the voice of wisdom within their own hearts. Ladies and gentlemen, after hearing the stories of Abraham Lincoln and Benjamin Franklin, we realize that the true strength of a person does not lie in a loud voice, but in the quiet that learns and knows when to stop. Lincoln taught us that, no matter how poor one may be, as long as one keeps learning, the light within can still illuminate the world. And Franklin reminded us that when one can restrain their words and keep silent at the right time, their voice will carry the weight of wisdom and compassion. Two people, two eras, two ways of life, yet sharing the same truth. Knowledge and silence are the two wings that bring mankind closer to truth. The world today may be louder, faster, and filled with more voices than ever. But among all those sounds, only those who keep learning and preserve inner stillness can hear the true voice, the voice of their own soul. Learn to understand. Be silent to comprehend. That is the foundation of wisdom. A light not dazzling, but enduring, shining through generations. And like a river flowing over stone, learning and silence are two streams that nourish the soul, polishing away the rough edges of arrogance and ignorance. When people learn to speak less and to understand more deeply, then and only then, they truly step through the doorway of enlightenment.